Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Amritpal Singh. This is a show in which we tell you what happened around the world and in the country throughout the day, the big stories that we are tracking. We get you the Prime Minister inaugurated the virtually inaugurated the toy fair. In Myanmar, the extensive crackdown has begun on protesters and much more over the next over the next 1 hour. And let's begin with the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Private sector participation being scaled up to ramp up COVID vaccination capacity manifold. The list of such private hospitals uploaded on Health Ministry's website. Private hospitals can charge up to 250 rupees per person per dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccination program to be expanded from 1st of March 2021. A total of 1,42 vaccine doses administered so far. Eight states display an upward trajectory in daily new cases. Lockdown in Maharashtra's Amravati district extended till 8th of March. 113 deaths reported in the last 24 hours. India's recovery rate at 97.17, among the highest. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates the Toy Fair 2021, calls it a major step towards building Atmanirbhar Bharat, says India has tradition, technology, concepts and competence to make great toys. Internal crisis brews within the Congress. The group of 23 Congress leaders hold an event in Jammu. Ghulam Nabi Azad says though he's retired from the Rajya Sabha but not from active politics. Kapil Sibal says the Congress is getting weak. Campaigning gathers momentum for assembly polls in West Bengal. BJP lodges complaints to Election Commission against some police officials in Kolkata. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi holds roadshow in Thoothukudi in Tamil Nadu. In cricket, Jasprit Bumrah released from the Indian squad ahead of the 4th Test match against England. The 27-year-old fast bowler returned to India's playing 11 for the day-night test in Ahmedabad. President Ramnath Kovind, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and others extend greetings on Guru Ravidas Jayanti. BJP President JP Nadda pays tribute to Sant Ravidas, says party greatly inspired by Sant Ravidas. And those were the headlines we were tracking at this hour. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated India Toy Fair 2021. He called for bringing out the hidden potential of toy industry in India and to create an identity for it as a big part of Self-Reliant India campaign. Prime Minister said that toys not only augment activity but also give flight to aspirations. He said this toy fair is one such platform where one can discuss toy design, innovation, technology, marketing and packaging and also share their experiences.
ये पहला टॉय फेयर केवल एक व्यापारिक या आर्थिक कार्यक्रम भर नहीं, देश की सदियों पुरानी खेल और उल्लास की संस्कृति को मजबूत करने की एक कड़ी है। खिलौनों के क्षेत्र में भारत के पास ट्रेडिशन भी है और टेक्नोलॉजी भी है, कंसेप्ट भी है और कॉम्पिटेंस भी है।
The vision of self-reliant India, learning by playing, marrying tradition with technology. These are the core thoughts that drive the mission to boost toy manufacturing across India. As a step towards achieving this, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the India Toy Fair 2021.
हमें खेल और खिलौनों के क्षेत्र में भी देश को आत्मनिर्भर बनाना है, वोकल फॉर लोकल होना है। अगर आज मेड इन इंडिया की डिमांड है तो आज हैंडमेड इन इंडिया की डिमांड भी उतनी ही बढ़ रही है।
Prime Minister said there are diverse toys across the country that are eco-friendly. He appealed to toy manufacturers of India to focus on making toys that are good for ecology and psychology of children.
ये सब खिलौने अपने आप में कितने डाइवर्स हैं, इको फ्रेंडली और क्रिएटिव है। ये खिलौने देश के युवा मन को हमारे इतिहास और संस्कृति से भी जोड़ते हैं। हमारे सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स कंप्यूटर गेम्स के जरिए भारत की जो मूलभूत मूल्य हैं, उन कथाओं को दुनिया तक पहुंचा सकते हैं।
From the Indus Valley civilization to the present, India has had a creative relation with toys. Learning while playing can become a reality was Prime Minister Modi's message.
खिलौनों के साथ भारत का रचनात्मक रिश्ता, क्रिएटिव रिलेशन उतना ही पुराना है जितना इस भूभाग का इतिहास है। आज जो शतरंज दुनिया में इतना लोकप्रिय है, वो पहले चतुरंग या चादुरंगा के रूप में भारत में खेला जाता था। आधुनिक लूडो तब 25 के रूप में खेला जाता था।
Prime Minister said that the new education policy stresses on play and activity-based learning. The aim should be to encourage rational and creative thinking.
आजकल परिवारों में प्ले टाइम की जगह स्क्रीन टाइम ने ले ली है। नई राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति में प्ले आधारित और गतिविधि आधारित शिक्षा को बड़े पैमाने पर शामिल किया गया है। एक ऐसी शिक्षा व्यवस्था है जिसमें बच्चों में पहेलियों और खेलों के माध्यम से तार्किक और रचनात्मक सोच बढ़े, इस पर विशेष ध्यान दिया गया है।
Women and Child Development Minister Smriti Irani said that 11 partner states will be taking part in the first ever India Toy Fair 2021.
First ever India Toy Fair 2021 will see pavilions by 11 partner states from amongst 30,000 units across the country. 60 toy clusters today, Honorable Prime Minister, sir, are looking forward to your blessings.
Prime Minister also spoke of the toy hackathon that was organized prior to the India Toy Fair. He also mooted the idea of developing tourism around toy clusters across the country. Prime Minister said that toy industry is now a part of the 24 priority sectors and a national toy action plan is also in place.
ये उद्योग कॉम्पिटिटिव बने, देश खिलौनों में आत्मनिर्भर बने और भारत के खिलौने दुनिया में भी जाएं।
These words sum up the unique initiative India Toy Fair 2021. With Arun Sharma, Bureau Report, DD India.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi today interacted with various toy clusters from across the country. He interacted with toy makers from Karnataka's toy hub, Chennapatna. Prime Minister also interacted with the puppet makers from Jaipur. The artisans explained the process of making puppets and about the materials used. The artisans mentioned that they use peach wood to create puppets and decorate them further. Prime Minister also interacted with the toy cluster from Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. He expressed his belief that children must be having arguments with their parents over incorporation of the current scenario in their favorite toys, as in to include masks on their toys as well.
आपका ये क्लस्टर तो देश के सबसे बड़े क्लस्टर में से एक है। आप सब लोग, कुल कितने लोग हैं जो इसमें जुड़े हुए हैं और कितने समय से काम कर रहे हैं?
इसमें 2000 लोग जुड़े हुए हैं और 200 साल से पुराना परंपरा है।
अच्छा, आपके चन्नापटना इलाके में जो कॉमन फैसिलिटी सेंटर है, उससे जो पिछले दिनों ही उसको बल दिया गया है, इससे आपको क्या लाभ हो रहा है?
हमारे को तो लाभ है, सिर्फ 2 सेंटर है, इसलिए और ज्यादा करने से हमारे को और ज्यादा हम ज्यादा कर सकते हैं।
अच्छा, ये जनधन खाते, मुद्रा लोन, ऐसी अनेक योजनाएं सरकार ने वो इस प्रकार के जो लोग मेहनत कर लोग हैं उनके लिए बना के रखी है। पहले की तुलना में इन योजनाएं से अब आपको बिजनेस में और क्या अंतर आया है?
जनधन योजना तो सभी को मालूम है और अकाउंट के लिए हमारे को बहुत इजी है। डायरेक्ट पार्टी हमारे को अकाउंट में पैसा मिल जाता है, उसके लिए हम शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं अकाउंट्स की।
क्या आपने कभी अपने इस चन्नापटना में बनने वाले ये जो अपने खिलौने हैं उसको ई मार्केट से देश में और दुनिया में उसको बेचने की कोई कोशिश की है और उसमें कोई सफलता मिलती है?
हम तो कोशिश कर रहे हैं, थोड़ा ऑफिसर लोग भी हमारे को बढ़ावा दिए तो हम कर सकते हैं।
देखिए ऐसा है, सरकार तो करेगी और करना भी चाहिए, लेकिन जब तक आप लोग भी नया और नए तरीके उसको नहीं करेंगे और हर बार यही कहते रहेंगे भाई सरकार करेगी तो हो जाएगा, सरकार करेगी तो हो जाएगा। सरकार जितना कम करे उतना ही अच्छा है। देखिए बच्चों की बड़ी विशेषता होती है, जो अगल बगल में देखते हैं ना उसको वो जीना चाहते हैं। क्या कभी आप ये सोचते हैं कि भाई अभी कोरोना है तो बच्चों को भी खिलौना वो चाहिए जिसको मास्क चाहिए?
पहले हम लोग का स्टैंडिंग खिलौना होता था, अभी हम लोगों ने ये जो बच्चे अपने हाथ द्वारा ये जो चलाते हैं गाड़ियां, इसको हमने एक नया इन्वेंशन दिया है। क्योंकि अभी हम लोगों ने ये जो ऑटो ट्रक में इसको अपने बैटरी द्वारा मोटर फिट करके बनाया है, ये नया इन्वेंशन है।
हर पीढ़ी के साथ पसंद नापसंद बदलती रहती है। जो हमारे पूर्वज जिन खिलौनों से खेलते होंगे वो हमारे बाद की जो पीढ़ी होगी वो अलग खिलौनों से खेलते होंगे, लेकिन हमें भी तो लगातार इसमें परिवर्तन लाते रहना चाहिए।
कठपुतली जो हम बनाते हैं वो आड़ू की लकड़ी से बनाते हैं। आड़ू की लकड़ी को छील के हम अलग अलग आकार देते हैं, फिर उसको विभिन्न तरह से पेंट करते हैं, फिर उनको पोशाकें बनाई जाती है। टॉय फेयर लगा है, इंडिया टॉय फेयर, उसमें हम 15 आर्टिस्टों को भाग लेने का अवसर मिला है और हम बहुत खुश हैं कि इसमें हमारी कला को आगे बढ़ाने का उत्साह मिल रहा है। उसके लिए इंडिया टॉय फेयर और प्रधानमंत्री जी का हम तहे दिल से धन्यवाद देते हैं।
क्या कभी आपको सोचा है कि आप लोग आज का जो एडवर्टाइजमेंट का युग है उस एडवर्टाइजमेंट के युग में इस कठपुतली के खेल का बहुत बढ़िया तरीके से उपयोग कर? आप कठपुतली से ही साबुन देना, साबुन से हाथ धोना बच्चों को सिखाने वाला कार्यक्रम कीजिए। उस कंपनी का एडवर्टाइजमेंट भी होगा और आपको ये एडवर्टाइजिंग का पैसा भी मिलेगा।
मास्क लगा के कठपुतली बनाई है सर हमने।
क्या बनाया है?
मास्क लगाना सिखाया है हमने।
अच्छा, मास्क वाली बनाई है?
जी हाँ,
देखिए ये है। तो मैं चाहूंगा कि आपको भी ये बेनिफिट मिलना चाहिए। पॉलिटिकल पार्टियां भी आपके पास दौड़ेगी, फिर तो हर पार्टी आएगी कि हमारा सिंबल लेके आप जरा दिखाइए लोगों को।
इसी अवसर की आवश्यकता है ताकि हम हमारी कला को आगे बढ़ा सके।
So that was the Prime Minister's interaction with the artisans. It brings us now to our In Focus tonight. Vocal about local toys. That is what our In Focus tonight is, vocal about local toys. And to talk more about that, I'm joined on the show by Shantanu. He's the Commissioner of he's the Development Commissioner Handicrafts with Government of India, and also Vasant Tamil Selvan. He's the founder of Arido Toys Private Limited. Both gentlemen, many thanks for being on the show. Let me begin with you, Mr. Shantanu. The Prime Minister says that this is marrying tradition with technology, will go a long way in making India self-reliant. What was the message that he was sending across?
Yes, the message is that we have a vast range of toy makers in the country. There are toy makers who are preserving our tradition, like traditions, and the artisans, the handicraft artisans, they form the part of tradition. And at the same time, we have got very good range of exporters who are making toys based on the latest technology. And that is why in this toy fair, we have out of 1,074 stalls, 74 exhibitors, more than 200 handicraft artisans and nearly 400 modern toy makers. So if we really marry the two and we take them along together, So certainly that will be a very good thing.
Okay. Mr. Tamil Selvan, let me bring you in. Today the Prime Minister says that, you know, we can connect. He talked about various things. He talked about how it can make, the industry can make India self-reliant, and how this is part of the 24 priority sectors, manufacturing of toys. But really, if we look at our global share in manufacturing toys, we don't it's not a very rosy picture. What is the real reason for that?
So we've been stuck to the age-old methods of making, though we have a very talented artisans in place. As a part of our exercise, we have traveled across Europe or US, and you don't have such artisans anywhere in the globe. But we are so blessed to have those artisans in place, and we have so much of toys clusters, which is still have to explore their potential. There's only the design factor and the packaging factor. If that is being bridged, definitely we have a global platform for Indian toys.
Okay. And Mr. Shantanu, with the taking up of, let's look at, you know, the vote share of our neighbor China in the toy manufacturing and where we are. That has hit us really, really badly. Many toy manufacturers in India shut down. The only toy manufacturers, the most toy manufacturers basically make it for the indigenous market. They don't compete well in the global arena. How can we change the situation?
Yes, in fact, just 1 hour back, we had a global CEOs conference in which 2 of our cabinet ministers and 1 CM of one state participated, and more than 10 CEOs of the global companies were there. And it came out basically that it's a matter of scale. So we have to increase the scale of production in India, and for that purpose, we do have common facility centers and production centers in very few selected clusters. But now the time has come that we have to expand it on a larger scale. So that is one thing. And then secondly, that as Mr. Vasantha said, the design part and the packaging part and other things which have to contribute to this, that will go a long way. And taking all this into account, the Government of India has made a national action plan for toys involving more than 10 ministries. Every ministry is doing its bit. And everything will be pulled together and give a substantial result.
Okay. The Prime Minister says we have talent, technology, tradition, concept and competence. And we should leverage that to improve our toy manufacturing industry. We make environment-friendly toys. Traditionally, say, our toys are made of things like wood or earth, unlike the plastic toys that, say, are manufactured globally or are more prevalent. How can we leverage that to see that we can push our interests forward? Mr. Tamil Selvan.
So the digital has given us a very democratic platform to convey our stories. And right now, with the vision of Prime Minister and team, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, the new millennials who have got into these toys and have known the importance of the potential of the market as well. So I think with that, with the right time, the government has also done the toy fair, and recently even in Man Ki Baat, when he mentioned, we had a lot of interest from the millennials who have started working on this. And a country like India, I think more than 2 crore kids are born, and even the domestic market is huge. So I think 4 or 5 years down the line, the entire industry is going to turn upside down. That's the hope we have. That's how we are working towards it.
Okay. Mr. Shantanu, when you talk to artisans, when you go out, people who make handicrafts, people who make, toys, traditional toys, when you talk to them, they say it is not a very lucrative business to be in. The wages are really, really bad. What can be done unless you rectify that? Unless it is, unless you incentivize it for the toy maker, the artisan who makes it, things are not going to change much.
Yes, I agree to that. In fact, keeping that in mind, now what we are doing, we are forming producer companies, because when they are in groups, they have more of collective power and bargaining power. And like Channapatna is one success story in that matter. There we have constructed common facility center, and few producer companies are also being formed. So once that done, it is easy for them to participate in various fairs and various marketing events also. So instead of individual, the company goes with products from various individuals. And as I said, the scale is the main issue. So when they form a group, that problem of scale also goes away. So that is the main thing. So individually, they can't succeed much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Tamilselvan, is that the view you share as well?
Yeah, I much endorse with the view, and I think he's quite correct. With an individual, it's a collective effort. Right now, I feel that gap is being bridged, and there's since a lot of initiative has been taken with the right platform and the profit sharing ratios with the startups is also initiated by few startups who are doing in this space. I think it's just a matter of time.
Okay. Mr. Shantanu, this is toy manufacturing ecosystem is something which has the potential of not just, scaling up your toy manufacturing and this thing, but through that creating jobs, which is a key focus of this government, creating more jobs. So what are the hiccups on that and how can we resolve that?
Frankly speaking, creating job is not the first priority. Okay. The first priority is to see that whatever artisans are making, they get their due, the right due. And then, of course, the units, the manufacturing units are MSME units and the exporter units. They are also being encouraged. Through them, of course, more and more of jobs are created. And startup is one area, because what we have felt and seen that wherever startups are working along with artisans, they're taking their products, particularly in marketing, the e-marketing, so both get benefited. So ventures like this are being encouraged and promoted.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it there. Many thanks, Mr. Shantanu and Mr. Tamilselvan, for joining us on this discussion and sharing your insights with us this evening. Thank you. Well, moving on to the COVID situation, 8 states are displaying an upward trajectory in the daily new cases. Now, that's worrisome. We don't wish to create a panic, but the fact of the matter remains that lockdowns are imposed to check the spread of coronavirus disease in Maharashtra's Amravati district, which has been extended till the 8th of March. 113 deaths were reported in the last 24 hours. India's recovery rate is good. It, in fact, at 97.17%. It is amongst the highest in the world. And to ramp up COVID vaccination capacity manifold, private sector participation is now being scaled up.
No masks. No adherence to social distancing. Absolutely no worries. When asked question, answer one gets: what happens if one does not wear masks? What happens if one does not adhere to social distancing norms? Corona has ended and no sign of corona now. If one is reconciled to this thought, then let us see the data of the Health Ministry, which says 6 states, Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Gujarat, have shown a surge in new cases in the last 24 hours. Maharashtra continues to report the highest daily new cases at 8,333. India's total active caseload has reached 1,59,590. India's present active caseload now stands at 1.44% of India's total positive cases. 8 states are displaying an upward trajectory in daily new cases. 16,488 new cases were registered in the last 24 hours. 85.75% of the new cases are from 6 states and UTs. Doctors and experts say that if there is relaxation in corona rules, then it will again take a horrible form.
कोरोना को एकदम बहुत ही इसका इंसिडेंस और संख्या हम लोग बहुत ही कम लेवल पे ले आए हैं। तो एक बात तय है कि जो ये आजमाया हुआ नुस्खा है, ये आजमाया हुआ इलाज है, तो इसमें ढिलाई अगर करेंगे तो उसका खामियाजा तो भुगतना पड़ेगा।
Festivals form an important part of our lives. In view of the spread of corona, the government has issued several guidelines for celebrating festivals. But on the occasion of Attukal Pongal being celebrated in Kerala, crowds of people could be seen in temples. Devotees were told that they should avoid crowds and take part in puja from their homes. But images tell a different story of this not being followed. However, what comes as a relief in the midst of all this is that 12,771 patients have recovered and got discharged in the last 24 hours. India's recovery rate at 97.17% is among the highest in the world. A total of 1,42,42,547 vaccine doses have been administered through 2,92,312 sessions as per the provisional report till 7 a.m. of Saturday. The Health Ministry informed about the next round of vaccination beginning 1st of March. Union Health Secretary said that this time the private sector has also been roped in the vaccination drive.
What we have suggested to the states is that all government health facilities can be used as COVID vaccination centers. They could be medical college hospitals, district hospitals, subdivisional hospitals, CHCs, PHCs, health sub-centers and health and wellness centers. So again, the choice is with the states. Depending on the demand and their requirement, they must, over a period of time, keep on increasing the number of not only private hospitals but also government hospitals which are serving as COVID vaccination centers.
After rising daily cases of corona have been reported, states have started taking precautionary steps. In some states, people coming from outside will have to undergo mandatory corona testing. With Bureau Inputs, Nitendra Singh's report, DD India.
And to ramp up the COVID vaccination capacity manifold, a significantly large number of private facilities are now being roped in. Nearly 10,000 private hospitals empaneled under Ayushman Bharat PMJ. More than 600 hospitals have been empaneled under CGHS and other private hospitals have been empaneled under state government. Health insurance schemes health insurance companies have been roped in. Health departments of state governments have already initiated dialogue with these private hospitals so that they can be encouraged to participate in this drive. A list of all these private hospitals has been uploaded on the website of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and National Health Authority. In addition, there would be government health facilities which will be used as CVCs such as medical college hospitals, district hospitals, subdivisional hospitals, CHCs, PHCs or the primary health centers, health sub-centers and health and wellness centers. Geo-reference maps with GPS coordinates of all these health facilities have been prepared that will serve as CVCs, and these geo-referenced maps are being shared with the states. Government COVID vaccination centers will offer free vaccination for all, with central government bearing the full cost of the vaccination. States have been explained that private hospitals functioning as CVCs can charge subject to a ceiling of 250 rupees per person per dose, along with electronic and financial management mechanism in this regard. And moving on to Myanmar, police in Myanmar launched their most sweeping crackdown in 3 weeks of protests against the military rule on Saturday in towns and cities across the country, with the media reporting at least one woman being shot dead and dozens of people being detained. The violence came after Myanmar's UN envoy urged United Nations to use any means necessary, that's what he said, to stop the February 1 coup.
In a major embarrassment to the military government of Myanmar, its permanent representative to the UN on Friday denounced the military coup during an informal briefing by the special envoy of the Secretary General to the UN General Assembly. Addressing the meeting, Ambassador Kwa Moe Tun urged strong support from the international community in the fight of Myanmar people against the military regime. Ambassador Yu Kwa Mo called for the strongest action to immediately end the military coup and restore democracy.
We the committee representing Chirangzu Tloto, CRPH, duly asked the United Nations Security Council, and international community that aspire to build peaceful and civilized global society to use any means necessary to take action against the Myanmar military and to provide safety and security for the people of Myanmar.
He called upon the UN to condemn the military coup and not recognize the regime by any means. Delivering his final words in Burmese, Kwa Mu Tun also raised the three-finger salute of pro-democracy protesters. Kwa Mu Tun's address at the 193-member UN General Assembly came after Secretary-General Antonio Guterres' special envoy on Myanmar, Christine Schraner Burgener, warned that no country should recognize or legitimize the Myanmar junta and all efforts must be made to restore democracy. At the meet, India reiterated its support to the process of democratic transition in Myanmar. India's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti, said that the gains made by Myanmar on the path towards democracy should not get undermined. He further said that restoring democratic order should be the priority for all stakeholders in Myanmar.
We remain deeply concerned that the gains made by Myanmar over the last decades on the path towards democracy should not get undermined. As the largest democracy, we have always been steadfast in our support to the process of democratic transition in Myanmar for it to emerge as a stable democratic federal union.
He called upon the international community to lend its constructive support to Myanmar at this critical juncture. He commended Bangladesh for hosting 1 million displaced people from the Rakhine state of Myanmar on its territory.
The international community must encourage and support positive steps. A collaborative and consensus-based approach is key to arrive at a meaningful and practical outcome. We must work to address the challenges that the concerned stakeholders continue to face so that this humanitarian problem is resolved in a timely manner. India will continue to work with both the governments of Bangladesh and Myanmar to enable the earliest return of displaced persons to their homes in the Rakhine state in a manner that is safe, speedy and sustainable.
Meanwhile, police in Myanmar launched their most sweeping crackdown in 3 weeks of protests against military rule on Saturday in towns and cities across the country. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the army seized power and detained elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi and much of her party leadership, alleging fraud in a November election her party won in a landslide. The coup has brought hundreds of thousands of protesters to Myanmar's streets and drawn condemnation from Western countries, with some imposing limited sanctions. With inputs from Rajesh Kumar Jha from Dhaka in Bangladesh, Bureau Report, DD India.
So that brings us to our next focus, in focus tonight, Myanmar, the three-finger salute for democracy at the United Nations. This is what we're discussing tonight, and to talk about that, I have with me Vivek Karju, former diplomat. He retired as secretary from the Ministry of External Affairs. Ambassador Karju, many thanks for joining us. First of all, even as the Myanmarese police or the Burmese police and army launch an extensive crackdown in various city reports saying that another woman was killed today when the police fired rubber bullets at protesters. Where is this going? Because the protesters don't seem to be backing down, but the army, which has been used to military rule for a very long time, thought that this would die out.
I don't think that the army would have had the expectation that it will die out easily.
Okay.
Perhaps they did not expect this extent of reaction and response from large sections of the Myanmar people and different sections of Myanmar society. Myanmar is a very complex place ethnically, and perhaps the fact that the majority community, sections of the majority community, the Burma, are also taking part in this would have come as a surprise, because that's not happened so much in the past. But my last point at this stage is that the Myanmar army has traditionally been a very stubborn force. It does not give up easily.
Okay.
It has shown scant regard, at least in the past, to international opinion, and it has always had the support of China. Now, I think today, unlike 30 years ago, the Chinese are a little embarrassed, and perhaps they want, above all, to avoid bloodshed. I'm confident that their caution to the junta would be not to have bloodshed. But the junta has a certain quotient of patience, and that patience may run out. So the situation is extremely difficult, and let us hope that it remains peaceful in Myanmar.
Okay. In the past also there have been protests. We saw Suu Kyi, protesting for a very, very long time and living in detention for a very long time. But this sort of a mass upsurge we didn't see among the people. What do you attribute it to? Is it that the people have tasted democracy in whatever limited sense that they did taste, and now they're not ready to accept authoritarian junta like in the past?
Let me take you back to 1988, when again the then army generals did not accept an election result and locked Suu Kyi up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at that stage too, there were protests, but that was over 3 decades ago,
Mm-hmm.
and the human rights concerns of the international community were there, but not to the extent which is there today. Today, of course, it's a different situation. We live in the digital age. We live in the age of the social media. And because of this connectivity, I think people find a way of bonding. And also, the world has changed in these 3 decades. So therefore, there has been this reaction. The problem is that while the world has changed drastically, the Myanmar army has not changed adequately or to the same extent.
Okay.
And therein lies the fundamental contradiction. And India, while we support democracy, and I've carefully heard the comments made by our permanent representative, as a democratic country, we would naturally look forward to democracy and the restoration of this process. But at the same time, we must be vigilant in ensuring that our own interests in a critical neighboring country are maintained.
Ambassador Karti, let me understand from you India's approach. Now, India has direct states, given that it shares a maritime border with them, land border with them. If there is mass exodus, if there is the crackdown increases and there is exodus, where does it go? It will go to Bangladesh, it will come to India. So that is also a concern. Then, of course, then there is the Chinese angle there. But India's response till now, even if you look at Ambassador Tirumurti, what he said at the UNGA yesterday, he says India believes that the rule of law and democratic process must be held and those detained be released. But we hope that the two sides are able to peacefully resolve their issues. India hasn't given a strident call for saying, well, military coup is not acceptable, unlike a lot of Western countries. It's using a very cautious approach. What do we make out of it?
There's an old diplomatic saying that the more distant you are from a country, the greater the diplomatic luxury of preaching.
Okay.
We are neighbors. We don't
Right.
have that luxury. And you rightly mentioned there's China. And we paid a very heavy price for the policies that we adopted in 1988. And the government would be aware that it has to tread a very fine line, and therefore rhetoric will really serve no purpose.
Right.
What will serve is engagement with the Myanmar army, but at a suitable time. And also conveying to them that, look, the world has changed and you must also, while looking after your interests in the political system, because let us not forget that the Myanmar army is, under the present constitution, has a role in politics. It has a certain number of seats reserved in the Myanmar parliament. It has the security ministries with it. The Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Home Affairs, perhaps the Ministry of Borders. So they are preserves of the army. And perhaps the army's fear was that following this election victory of Aung San Suu Kyi, this equation may change. Now, that is something that the Myanmar people must resolve themselves with outside assistance, and certainly not under, certainly that process will be impeded if the Chinese interfere. And if you've noticed, the Chinese have been very circumspect. They don't want bloodshed, they don't want, certainly don't want that, but they are not putting any pressure on Myanmar. They are confining themselves to just asking that Myanmar must resolve its internal situation by itself. So our own position, I think till now, has been good. We've struck the right nuance, and we need to continue with this nuance, that is, while calling for a restoration of the system, asking the sides to engage in a dialogue. My last point is, the problem is that the Myanmar army is still has still very old thinking. Let me put it that.
All right. Ambassador Katju, before I let you go, one last question. In a dramatic speech, the Myanmar's own ambassador to the UN, defied the country's army, and he called for the world to intervene, saying the UN should strongly intervene and not recognize the military regime. He went on to say he was representing the NLD-led civilian government. Career bureaucrats don't do that, especially at international stage. He's the representative of his country at the UN. That was something which was not expected, or do these things happen? What has been your experience?
No, these things happen. I mean, they're not unknown. They aren't without precedent. The question is that while the Myanmar PR has succeeded in drawing international spotlight, at least for some time, to a greater extent than there was on the developments in Myanmar. Whether the manner in which he has done so will be efficacious and will promote the cause of democracy and peace in Myanmar, or whether it will put the backs of the Myanmar junta up. I suspect the latter, because they are a very xenophobic force. Let us not forget this. They see conspiracies where there may be none. And therefore, I do not know whether in the ultimate analysis, the PR step was a wise step.
All right. Ambassador Katju, we leave it there. Many thanks for joining us and sharing your insights with us this evening. Thank you. And the Indian Air Force carried out a long-range precision strike against practice target to mark the second anniversary of the Balakot operations. The strike was carried out by members of the same squadron who carried out the actual operations. Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal A.R.K. Bhaduria also flew a multi-aircraft sortie with the units to commemorate the occasion along with the squadron pilots. The 19th Home Secretary level talks between India and Bangladesh were held virtually today in the backdrop of Mujib Barsho and 50 years of Bangladesh Liberation War and the establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries. India and Bangladesh attach highest importance to their bilateral relations. Both secretaries reiterated their commitment to further expand and strengthen mutual cooperation in the security and border-related issues. Both sides reaffirmed not to allow the territory of either country to be used for any activity inimical to each other's interests. Both sides discussed early completion of pending fencing along the Indo-Bangladesh border as agreed by the Prime Ministers of the two countries. Both sides appreciated the cooperation between the two countries and the action taken to address the menace of terrorism and extremism in an effective manner. The effective functioning of the Coordinated Border Management Plan to control illegal cross-border activities was appreciated by both sides. Bangladesh appreciated assistance provided by India in the field of training and capacity building for various security agencies. Guru Ravidas Jayanti was celebrated across the country today. Guru Ravidas is counted among the most prominent social reformers in Indian history. His influence on Indian culture is immense, especially in North India. A man who believed in simplicity of life and purity of heart, Sant Ravidas is well known for making efforts in eradicating caste system. Tributes poured in from all quarters on the occasion.
Great saints belong to entire humanity. Guru Ravidas, whose teachings enlightened the lives of many, especially in North India during the 15th to 16th century, justifies this saying. A grateful nation paid rich tributes to Bhakti movement saint Guru Ravidas on his 644th birth anniversary on Saturday. Guru Ravidas is well known for his efforts in eradicating caste system. President Ramnath Kovind greeted the nation on Guru Ravidas Jayanti. In his message, President Ramnath Kovind said, Guru Ravidas was a great saint and a religious reformer who devoted his life to serve humanity. Through his teachings, he delivered the message of equality, justice, peace and harmony to mankind. Paying humble tributes to great poet Saint Guru Ravidas on his Jayanti, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu tweeted, Ravidas ji believed in universal brotherhood and spread the message of unity through his writings and teachings. As we remember him, let us emulate his teachings and resolve to follow the path shown by him. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also paid tribute to Sant Ravidas on his Jayanti. In a tweet, Prime Minister said, the messages given by Sant Ravidas on equality, goodwill and compassion centuries ago will inspire countrymen for ages. Home Minister Amit Shah said Guru Ravidas by his works tied the whole society in the thread of unity and paved the way for the welfare of all classes. Amit Shah said his message of giving priority to karma and inner purity will continue to inspire people. Addressing a gathering after paying tributes to poet Saint Ravidas at the BJP headquarters in New Delhi, party president JP Nadda said that all the schemes of the Narendra Modi government are aimed at strengthening the person standing on the last mile, and making these schemes flourish till the grassroots level will be a real tribute to Sant Ravidas ji. Bureau Report, DD India.
Vice President Venkaiah Naidu has called for effectively utilizing information technology to improve justice delivery for the common man. While addressing the 11th convocation of Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University in Chennai today, the Vice President said that systemic solutions are also needed to be found to the challenges of reducing out-of-pocket legal expenditure for citizens and the inordinate delays in rendering justice.
Timeliness in rendering justice is a major concern. As the maxim goes, justice delayed is justice denied. We have been talking about it. But we are not able to achieve justice without any delay at all.
Vice President has appealed for demystifying the legal system and bringing it closer to the people by conducting court proceedings in local languages.
The system needs to be demystified and brought closer to the people by conducting court proceedings and delivering judgments in the language of the people. The advocate is arguing the case, but the client do not know what the advocate is arguing. We must slowly move towards having local language in all courts.
Delhi University held its 97th annual convocation ceremony in the university campus today. In total, 631 PhD and over 59,000 undergraduate and postgraduate degrees were conferred upon, and 156 medals and 36 prizes were also awarded at the convocation. Additionally, over 1.18 lakh degrees were awarded to students from the School of Open Learning. In his address during the convocation, Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank said that it was the first time that houses were converted into schools and the government did not let a year of students go waste.
पहली बार ऐसा हुआ होगा जब घरों को ही स्कूलों में हमने तब्दील कर दिया और बच्चे छात्र का एक वर्ष भी खराब नहीं जाने दिया, समय पर परीक्षा करवाई, समय पर रिजल्ट दिया, जेईई की परीक्षा करवाई, विश्व की कोरोना काल की सबसे बड़ी परीक्षा नीट करवाई, कोरोना काल की सारे विश्व की सबसे बड़ी परीक्षा नीट को भी हम सफलतापूर्वक हमने कराया। हमने छात्र का एक वर्ष भी खराब नहीं होने दिया।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people of India and abroad in his special program Mann Ki Baat on All India Radio on Sunday at 11 a.m. It will be the 74th episode of the monthly radio program. It will be broadcast on the entire network of Doordarshan and All India Radio. It will also be live streamed on YouTube channels of DD India and DD News, All India Radio and the Prime Minister's office's own channel, YouTube channel, and the Information and Broadcasting Ministry's channel. The program will also be broadcast in regional languages immediately after the Hindi broadcast. The regional language versions will be repeated at 8 in the evening. Internal crisis in the Congress party seems to be worsening by the day, as senior leaders of the party like Ghulam Nabi Azad, Anand Sharma, Kapil Sibal and others held an event in Jammu where they admitted that the Congress has weakened. They called for new generation to connect with the party. The group of 23 Congress leaders who had expressed dissent with the functioning of the party and had last year even written a letter to Sonia Gandhi held an event in Jammu on Saturday to launch a nationwide campaign to what they called Save the Idea of India. Former Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament Ghulam Nabi Azad, one of the 23, invited his colleagues for the Gandhi Global Family event. Apart from Azad, other Congress leaders present included Kapil Sibal, Manish Tiwari, Anand Sharma, Bhupinder Singh Hooda and Raj Babbar.
और जब हमें ऐसा लगा कि पार्लियामेंट को गुलाम नबी आजाद को आजाद कर रहे हैं तो हमें दुख हुआ और मुझे तो इस बात की समझ नहीं आई कि इस अनुभव को कांग्रेस पार्टी इस्तेमाल क्यों नहीं कर रही।
मैं पार्लियामेंट के राज्यसभा से रिटायर हुआ हूं, राजनीति से रिटायर नहीं हुआ हूं जैसे मेरे साथी हैं। हम इधर से डूबते हैं, इधर निकलते हैं, इधर से निकलते हैं, इधर डूबते हैं।
The grouping says it would hold such non-political platforms across the country to rally progressive parties like Congress's breakaway outfits to strengthen the Congress party.
गलतफहमी नहीं रहनी चाहिए कि कोई रिटायरमेंट है, ये कोई सरकारी नौकरी में नहीं थे ना हम हैं, पर हमारी आवाज कांग्रेस की सेहत के लिए है, कांग्रेस को मजबूत करने के लिए है। एक बार दोबारा हर सूबे के अंदर कांग्रेस मजबूत हो, नई पीढ़ी के लोग जुड़े। हमने अच्छा वक्त देखा है कांग्रेस का, हम नहीं चाहते जैसे जैसे हम लोगों की उम्र बढ़ती है हम कांग्रेस को कमजोर देखें।
While the senior leaders of the party were busy in Jammu holding rallies, the working president of the Gujarat Congress, Hardik Patel, slammed the party. In an interview to a newspaper, he said that the Congress is not using him enough and its leaders might be wanting to pull him down. Though elections in Gujarat are a year away, but growing dissent does not augur well for the party's future. Bureau Report, DD India. And now for news from 4 poll-bound states and 1 union territory where assembly elections are due in our segment Election Wrap.
BJP leader Kailash Vijayvargiya attacked Mamata Banerjee-led TMC over reports of damage in the North 24 Parganas district. Vijayvargiya urged Election Commission to appoint additional officers with extra forces so that people of West Bengal can vote fearlessly. Several BJP leaders on Saturday met Election Commission officials over free and fair polling in the state. The BJP accused 3 policemen of the state of working in favour of TMC. Union Minister Giriraj Singh, while reacting to the assembly elections in West Bengal, said that he is sure 200% that BJP government will be formed in the state. He claimed that people of the state have decided to neither vote for hooliganism nor for the government of cut money. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi holds roadshow in Thoothukudi in Tamil Nadu. Rahul Gandhi said that country has unique identity of religions, harmony, different languages and distinct traditions, and all should be respected. The Rashtriya Janata Dal RJD has decided to contest the assembly elections in Assam. RJD leader Tejasvi Yadav said that he stands with the people of Assam, their problems and aspirations. The Election Commission has put on hold the transfer and posting of 18 police officers ordered by the Assam government on Friday. The Assam government had ordered the transfer of 12 IPS and 6 Assam police service officers. The assembly elections were announced on Friday in the state along with 3 other states and a union territory. Union Minister Prahlad Joshi has said that wherever there are people with left ideology, especially the Communist Party, they promote violence. He said this was seen earlier in West Bengal and now it is being seen in Kerala as well. Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary requested the Election Commission to ensure tight security arrangements during the upcoming assembly elections in West Bengal so that people can come out to cast their vote without any fear. Therefore, the poll body has decided to conduct elections in the state in 8 phases.
In our segment, NatRap.
The countdown for the launch of ISRO's PSLV C-51 Amazonia-1 mission began on Saturday. PSLV C-51, carrying Amazonia-1, an optical Earth observation satellite from Brazil and 18 other satellites, will lift off from the first launch pad at the Space Center at 10:24 a.m. on Sunday. The rocket will place the payloads in sun-synchronous polar orbits. The launch will be the 53rd flight of PSLV and the 78th launch vehicle mission from Sriharikota Spaceport. Union Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan reviewed the progress of a CNG boat conversion project and the Khirkiya Ghat redevelopment project in Varanasi. The Union Minister said that Kashi will emerge as a religious tourism spot soon. The Khirkiya Ghat redevelopment project is being undertaken by the Gas Authority of India Limited and Indian Oil.
And gunmen in Nigeria have released 42 people, including 27 students who were kidnapped from a boarding school last week in the north-central state of Niger. The release comes just a day after a separate raid on a school in Nigeria's Zamfara state, where gunmen seized more than 300 girls. Last week, 27 students, 3 staff and 12 members of their families were abducted by an armed gang who stormed the government science secondary school in the Kagara district of the Niger state. Jasprit Bumrah was released from Indian squad on personal request ahead of the 4th Test match against England. The 27-year-old fast bowler had returned to India's playing 11 for the day and night test in Ahmedabad, but was required to bowl just 6 overs in the first innings of the match on a surface that took spin from the first day. Bumrah will finish the series with 4 wickets from 48 overs bowled across 2 test matches. He was also rested from the 2nd test in Chennai as part of the team's workload management. Mohammad Siraj, who replaced Bumrah in that test, is one of the front runners to reclaim his spot, although India also have the luxury of calling back the experienced Umesh Yadav. And that's it in Newsnight for tonight. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.